Hello, it's about 30 days before Pesach, Passover, believe it or not, so we're going to start learning the laws of Passover, and we are going to continue where we left off last year. And we will be focusing on the laws of the Seder, how to conduct a proper Seder on the first 2 nights of Pesach, Passover. So we're in the Mishnah Berurah, Siman Taf Ayin Gimel, which is 473, starting from the beginning. Mozgim lo kos rishon, you pour the first cup of wine, Umekadosh alav, and you make Kiddush on the first cup of wine. So we have Kiddush at the Seder, just like we have Kiddush on Shabbos and on every other holiday. Umevar Shechianu, and we make the blessing of Shechianu. Right, that's the blessing we make the first time we do a mitzvah, the first beginning of a holiday for each year when we get something new. Ve'im chal b'Shabbos, if Pesach falls on Shabbos, Aimer vayechulu, then you say vayechulu in Kiddush. That's the part of Kiddush that we say on every Shabbos. So if Pesach falls on Shabbos, we proceed the Kiddush with Vayechulu. And this year, the second night of Pesach will be on Shabbos, so we'll be saying, this year the first night of Pesach is on Shabbos. It is on Shabbos, so we will be saying, adding Vayechulu to Kiddush. V'imchal b'motzi Shabbos, if Pesach is on Motzi Shabbos, Saturday night, Omer Yak Nahaz, you say Yak Nahaz. Yak Nahaz stands for Yayin, Kiddush, meaning first you make the Hagafen, then you make Kiddush. Ner, meaning the Havdalah candle. So you actually have the Havdalah candle. Havdalah, when you have Pesach on Saturday night, Havdalah becomes part of Kiddush. And Yak Nahaz is the order. So it's Yayin, wine, Kiddush, the bracha of Kiddush, Ner for the candle, Havdalah, the blessing of Havdalah, and Zion is Zman for Shechianu. So this year, actually, the second night of Pesach is on Saturday night, is on Motzei Shabbos. V'im shachach lahavdil v'lo niskar ad shehischil ha'agada. Let's say you forgot to do Havdalah within Kiddush, and you don't remember until you begin the Haggadah. Yashlim ha'agada ad Ga'al Yisrael. Finish the Haggadah until the blessing of Ga'al Yisrael in the Haggadah. V'achar kach yavdil. And after that, you make Havdalah. Ve'ein litl yadav klal kaidem Kiddush. One does not wash his hands before Kiddush. That means there's no ritual washing before Kiddush, like there is before bread or before the karpas. Ve'ein yadav nikios. However, if your hands are not clean, yitul ma'at, wash them a little bit. Aval ein levarach ala netila, but you don't make a blessing on this netila. So, anytime you make a bracha, make a blessing, you're not allowed to do so or speak words of Torah if your hands are unclean. So the same thing here, if you want to make Kiddush, you have to make sure your hands are clean. But this isn't a washing this is not an official washing which is part of the Seder. This is just a general rule. Anytime throughout the year when you make a blessing, when you study Torah, or when you daven, you have to have clean hands. The Balabais, the one who is running the Seder, does not pour his own glass of wine, but rather other people pour it from him. The reason is to show cheres, to show that we're free. A free person does not pour his own wine, but he has somebody else do it for him. Okay, so that was Seif Aleph in the Shulchan Aruch and Ramah. Now let's start doing the Mishnah Berurah. Now we're not going to have time to finish all the Mishnah Berurahs on this, but let's begin. Umekadosh alav, kodem sheyikadosh, before you make Kiddush on Pesach, yechavin shirotz l'kayim mitzvahs Kiddush. V'gam mitzvahs arba kosos. So there's a rule, there's a discussion in general of mitzvah strichas kavana, that when you do a mitzvah, do you have to have intent to fulfill the mitzvah? Now there's a whole debate and discussion that if you did not have intent when you did the mitzvah, do you still fulfill the mitzvah? But everybody agrees that preferred practice is to have intent when you're doing the mitzvah, to pay attention to what you're doing. And we should have in mind that we're doing this action right now to fulfill the mitzvah. So the Mishnah Berurah says here that when we make Kiddush on the first night of Pesach, at the Seder, we need to have a few things in mind, because we're doing a few mitzvahs when we make Kiddush. One is that we should have in mind that we're fulfilling the mitzvah of Kiddush. There's a mitzvah to make Kiddush, and that is the same mitzvah that applies on Pesach, Shavuot, Sukkot, Shabbos, and everything. But there's additional mitzvahs also that we do on the night of Pesach. One of those mitzvahs is the mitzvah to drink 4 cups of wine. So in addition to having in mind to fulfill the mitzvah of Kiddush, we should have in mind to fulfill the mitzvah to drink 4 cups of wine. Shekosho Kiddush hu echad ma'arba kosos, because the Kiddush that we drink is the first of the 4 cups of wine. V'yesh noagim loymar. There are those that have the custom to say, Hareini muchan lekadesh ulekayim mitzvahs arba kosos. There are those that even say, instead of just thinking it in their minds, but they say, behold, I am prepared to make Kiddush and to fulfill the mitzvah of the 4 cups. You just should be careful to not say this statement after Kiddush. Because you made a blessing on the cup of Borei Priya. That would be a hefsek, that would be an interruption. One's not supposed to have any interruption between the blessing on the Kiddush cup and drinking. If you want to say this, you should say this before Kiddush. Now, that's one thing you have in mind. Now, before you start saying the Haggadah, you should have in mind to fulfill the mitzvah of telling over the story of leaving Egypt. Because there's another mitzvah we do at the Seder night. So far we're up to our 3rd mitzvah that we do on the Seder night. There's many mitzvahs we do at the Seder, but right now we're up to the 3rd. The third mitzvah here is, there's a mitzvah at the night of the Seder to talk about the leaving of Egypt. So the Mishnah Berurah is telling us that before we start the Haggadah, before we start reading the Haggadah, before we make the first bracha on the first cup of wine, we should also have in mind to fulfill the mitzvah of Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim, of telling the story of leaving Egypt. So far, we have 3 mitzvahs that we have to have in mind before we make Kiddush. 1 is the general mitzvah of Kiddush. 2 is the mitzvah of the 4 cups. And 3 is the mitzvah to fulfill telling the story of leaving Egypt. Okay, so we just started the Mishnah Berurah. There's much more to do. And this is Mishnah Berurah on this first sif, but we're discussing the first cup of wine, which is also the cup of Kiddush. And God willing, we'll continue. Next time, if anyone who is not subscribed would like to get these classes in an email, just please send me an email at Shaul Rosenthal, ShaulRosenthal @gmail, and I will add you to our list. And again, this class was in loving memory and Le'iloi Nishmas Elchanan ben Leib. Thanks and have a great day.